Somewhere on Wall Street, a screen refreshes, and Caterpillar has 90 days to prove itself all over again. That is the whole clock. 90 days. Every quarter, the yellow giant walks into a room full of analysts and explains what it did with the money, and if the number comes in soft, the stock bleeds by morning. Now picture a completely different room. A workshop in southern Germany, a family name bolted over the door, and a grandson who is not thinking about the next 90 days at all. He is thinking about the machine his own grandchildren will build one day. Those two rooms are the reason a handful of European families keep quietly taking ground that the biggest name in heavy equipment cannot hold. This is not a story about America losing. It is a story about two very different clocks. Start in the rubble. 1949. A bombed-out Germany is trying to stand back up, and a builder named Hans Liebherr looks at the cranes on offer and decides they are useless to him. So he builds his own. A mobile tower crane, light enough to move, quick to bolt together, exactly the kind of machine a country in ruins actually needs. He calls the first one the TK-10. That single crane, born out of a wrecked economy, becomes the seed of one of the largest privately held engineering groups on Earth, a company that today builds not just cranes but giant mining trucks, aircraft parts, and even the refrigerator that might be humming in your kitchen. And here is the part that matters. 3 generations later, the Liebherr family still owns all of it, 100%. No stock ticker, no outside shareholders, just the name over the door. Now crossed to England, 4 years earlier, 1945. A man named Joseph Cyril Bamford rents a tiny lock-up garage, about 10 foot by 15, for 30 shillings a week. Inside it, he welds a farm trailer together out of war surplus scrap and old Jeep axles, and he opens for business on the very day his first son, Anthony, is born. He sells that first trailer for £45. From that garage grows JCB, and out of JCB comes something the whole industry would copy. Bamford bolted a hydraulic digging arm onto the back of a loader and effectively invented the backhoe loader, the machine you now see on building sites all over the world. And that family, the Bamfords, still owns the entire company today. Private. No quarterly call. No ticker. Then go north, deep into Finland, to a village called Viramäe. 1970. A working logger named Inari Vidgren is sick of machines that cannot handle a real Nordic forest, so he builds his own forwarder in a village forge and names the company after an ugly gray mongrel dog that used to wander the streets. Ponce. That is genuinely where the name comes from. A village dog. And every single Ponce forest machine, more than 21,000 of them across the decades, has been built in that same small Finnish village and shipped out to work in forests across dozens of countries. When Einari died, his sons did not sell to the highest bidder. They kept building. Same village, same name, same bloodline. 3 companies, 3 families, 3 countries, and one thing in common that has nothing to do with steel. Not one of them truly answers to Wall Street. Hold on to that, because it is the entire engine of this story. So before we step inside Caterpillar and watch the other model actually work, do one quick thing. If you run one of these machines for a living, or you just love watching them work, subscribe right now, because what comes next is the reason the family-built machine parked next to yours so often outlives the yellow one beside it. Because Caterpillar does answer to Wall Street. And let me be clear, this is not a knock on America, or on the workers who pour their lives into building that yellow iron. Caterpillar is a genuine giant, the largest maker of construction and mining equipment on the planet. But it is a publicly traded company, and a publicly traded company has one boss standing above all the others. The shareholder. Caterpillar has paid a dividend every single year since 1933, and it has lifted that dividend for roughly 30 years running. Across just the last 10 years, it has handed shareholders somewhere around $57 billion in dividends and stock buybacks. Read that number again, because it is the hinge of this whole video. Caterpillar tells its own investors, in its own official filings, that it intends to return substantially all of its free cash flow to shareholders. Substantially all of it. That is not a scandal, and it is not a mistake. It is the model. It is precisely what a Wall Street company is built to do. 4 times a year, the ritual repeats. Executives on a call, analysts with their spreadsheets, one number everybody has already guessed, and a stock that jumps or sinks on whether reality matched the forecast. In the last year alone, Caterpillar pushed more than $10 billion back out to shareholders, close to $8 billion of that in buybacks. During the very same stretch, it was cutting hundreds of jobs and shutting a plant to protect its margins. The cash the business throws off does not mostly stay inside the business. It flows out to the owners of the stock, quarter after quarter, because if it stopped, those owners would sell, the share price would drop, and the clock would start ticking on whoever is sitting in the chief executive's chair. Now set that beside a family that has no stock price to defend. When Caterpillar earns $1 billion, a huge slice of it is already spoken for, promised to shareholders, before the engineers ever get a look. When Liebherr earns $1 billion, the family gets to ask a completely different question. What do we build next? In 2024, Liebherr poured €666 million into research and development in a single year. Not into buybacks, not into a dividend for outside investors, because there are no outside investors. Into engineering, into the next crane, the next mining truck, the next drivetrain. And in that very same year, while Caterpillar's sales actually slipped by about 3%, Liebherr posted the highest revenue in its entire history, around €14.6 billion, with more than 54,000 people on the payroll. One giant shrinking while it pays out. One family growing while it reinvests. That is not luck. That is the clock, ticking in two directions at once. And because that family spread its bets across cranes and mining and aerospace and even kitchen appliances, Liebherr can cover a weak year in one market with a strong year in another and answer to no bank and no board while it does it. Financial independence, they call it. It is the quiet luxury of a company that owes Wall Street absolutely nothing. And this is the pattern hiding under every one of these stories. JCB did not dream up the backhoe by chasing a quarterly number. Anthony Bamford, the son born the day that first trailer sold, took the chairman's seat in 1975 and drove a little British workshop into a global force, and he did it without ever handing the company to the stock market. Ponce did not build the finest cut-to-length forest machines in the world by asking analysts for their blessing. Ponce even sells shares on the Helsinki exchange now, and yet the Vidgren family kept firm control, so the founder's own sons still set the course. A family that plans in decades can pour money into a project, lose on it for years, wait, refine it, and finally win the long game, while a public rival has to explain every soft quarter or watch its share price get punished for it. So here is a real question for you, and drop your answer in the comments below. If you had to put one family-built machine up against Caterpillar, a Liebherr, a JCB, a Ponce, or something else you have run with your own hands, which one would you back? Tell me down there, and subscribe, because everything after this is where the whole thesis finally snaps into focus. Do that for 10 years, then 20, then 40, and the gap simply compounds. Every euro a family firm keeps and reinvests is a euro quietly building next year's advantage, while every dollar a public giant ships out to Wall Street is a dollar that will never become a better machine. Stack that up across 3 whole generations and you do not get a small difference. You get Liebherr posting record numbers in the very same year the giant is shrinking. You can actually feel this in the iron. You feel it in a Liebherr crane, where the engineers were never once ordered to shave a few euros off the build just to rescue a quarter. You feel it in a JCB that only exists because one family gambled on an idea nobody else had tried. You feel it in a Ponce, designed by people who have logged those same freezing forests with their own hands. None of these machines were shaped by a calendar or by a spreadsheet full of shareholder targets. They were shaped by families who fully expect to be judged one day by their own children. Look at Ponce one more time. When Einari Vidgren died, the easy move, the move Wall Street would have applauded, was to sell the family stake to a bigger firm and cash out. His sons did the exact opposite. They kept the company in the family and kept the factory in the village. That decision cost them a fortune on paper, and it bought them the one thing no share price ever can: a free hand and a long horizon. Here is the turn. The very thing that looks like Caterpillar's greatest strength, being an enormous public company with deep pockets and armies of shareholders, is the exact thing quietly tying its hands. Every quarter, the money that might have built a bolder machine gets tallied up, and a huge portion of it gets shipped off to Wall Street instead. The buybacks lift the share price. The dividend keeps investors calm. The next quarter looks clean. But meanwhile, in southern Germany, in a Staffordshire workshop, in a Finnish village, families are aiming their profits straight back into steel and software, and the next idea, year after year after year, with nobody to satisfy but the grandchildren who will one day inherit the whole thing. Caterpillar can outspend any one of these families on almost any single day. What it cannot do is outweight them. That is the entire secret, and it is almost embarrassingly simple. Caterpillar answers to the next quarter. Liebherr, JCB, and Ponce answer to the next generation, and in heavy equipment, where a machine has to survive 20 years of mud and frost and abuse before anyone dares call it good, the next generation beats the next quarter almost every single time. These families are not out-engineering the American giant because they are smarter than it, or because they hate it, or because of anything to do with flags. They are out-engineering it because they are free, and the machine built to satisfy a shareholder will always, in the end, be beaten by the machine built to outlast a grandchild.